I've got another e-bike review coming at you. This is the Tenways AGO-X. This is an SUV of an e-bike. It's got a huge rear rack, a mid-drive motor, Shimano Dior drivetrain, suspension fork. It can fit people from 5'6" up to 6'3". And in this video, we're gonna go over my first impressions, my thoughts, and give you a good idea of who this bike is for, how it performs, and my general thoughts about this bike. So this isn't my first mid-drive bike. However, this is my first Baofeng mid-drive bike. And I have really liked the system. The motor has like an interesting clicking when you backpedal, when you're not moving. Or excuse me, not when you're backpedaling. It free spins when you're backpedaling, but it has this clicking noise when you roll the bike backwards, which kind of feels interesting. I don't think that's a problem. I've seen other people have that. And I think it's just like a quirk of this specific mid-drive motor. And it's kind of cool to see the other types of mid-drive motors. I've used the Specialized bikes. Those use a Bros motor, which is a Swiss engineering company. And then Specialized adds in a lot of their software. One thing I've noticed with this bike too is that I love that it can fit a wide range of people of different heights. So I'm able to ride this very comfortably, but so is my girlfriend. She is 5'8", and this bike accommodates people who are 5'6" to, I believe, 6'3", 6'4". And then they make one size of this bike a little bigger for, I guess, really huge people, because I'm pretty big as it is, and this bike fits me pretty perfectly. Really good. Now, one thing I do wish that this bike did have is a like an efficiency monitor on the display. My Turbo Terra will tell me how much power it's using, and it'll help me shift, or it'll help me know when to shift up or down to stay in the most efficient zone. And I think that would be really helpful on this bike. Otherwise, the mid-drive motor is really awesome, and haven't found much problems with it. The rack is humongous. The rails on the rack, I believe, are like 20 millimeters across, which is much bigger than the average, I think, like 8 or 10 millimeters. That I would say the average bike rack is. So it's been a little difficult to find bags that are, I mean, none of the bags that I have for bikes or for my bike racks fit on this AGO-X, which is interesting to me, right? Because the rack on the back is like super sturdy. It's got a wire going through it that powers the rear LED. And so, like, if you take off the rack, you've got to reroute this LED tail light. And so I need to find a solution, whether that's like zip tying a basket onto the rack, whether that's like making my own clips. That's something else in this video that I want to find out, because this bike is awesome, but I want to be able to carry a lot of stuff on it. So that is something else that I want to figure out and let you know in this video. So because this bike is a mid-drive motor too, you're not gonna get a throttle. And in my opinion, the bike is so powerful that you don't really need, or like, I don't have a desire to want to throttle this bike. If I put it in pedal assist mode 5, I'm getting so much power that all I have to do really is just spin my legs, and I don't like feel like I have to give it any input for the bike to go fast. I think what I want to do is head back to the studio and let's talk about specs. The AGO-X is a pretty well integrated bike. It's got a battery that's integrated into the down tube. It has integrated cable routing, which goes through the bike frame, which is really nice. The bike is spec'd with the Suntour fork, which is entry level and leaves a little bit to be desired. Same with these pedals. They are plastic, and for a premium bike like this, I would expect a little bit better pedals. The motor is an M410 Baofeng on a Shimano Dior 10-speed drivetrain. This is a speed sensor, and it has a torque sensor as well. The bike ships with these fenders, which is really nice now that I live in a more wet environment. It has a heavy-duty rear rack with an integrated rear light on it, which is super bright. I really enjoy this light, and it has visibility from the side, which is helpful as well. The integrated front lights are STVZO and aren't too bright, but just enough to be seen. Here on the non-drive side of the bike, we'll take a look at the brakes. AGO-X has hydraulic disc brakes, both front and back. These really help with stopping power compared to cable actuated brakes. And it's a nice premium feature on this bike. And here I'm giving you a demo of what it's like to take out the integrated battery. It's got a key, so no one can take your battery out when you're not there, and slides out real easily. So I'm on my first 2 miles of the trail, and so far the bike is basically holding 20 miles an hour. I'm doing this range test in pedal assist mode 3. Again, the middle. Try to get an average of what the range will be. So I'm up here on Murdoch Trail. It is pretty cold up here today, so I'm all bundled up, which is good. It's good practice for bike packing trip I want to do in 2 weeks. Or I'm going to do in 2 weeks with my buddy Dan, who I have a video about on the channel as well. But AGO-X performing pretty dang good, giving me tons of power. Mode 3, basically holding 19.5 miles an hour. At this rate, I should be at the end of the trail in about an hour. So that's good. Now I also have my camera with me. I'm trying to get used to riding with a camera on my back, because half the reason I like biking and going on bike trips is because I like making videos. It takes me a little longer, but I get a lot of enjoyment pre and post out of that. All right, I'm in this little ravine area. It's under a dam, so we're coming up to a first hill, which I'm not too worried about the hills because I'm able to use gears because this is a mid-drive bike. That means that I can keep the same cadence when I'm going 20 miles an hour as well as when I'm going like 4 going uphill. So that is one sure benefit of mid-drive motor bikes. So again, I'm going up this hill, keeping a consistent cadence. I am going 7 miles an hour, but let's kick it down again. And I've got the same whine coming from the motor as I did when I was going 20 miles an hour. With these motors, you typically want to hold like, I don't know, 70 to 90 RPM. If you're going too slow, you're going to be using too much torque. If you're going too fast, the motor's going to be trying to keep up. But this path is great. This is really the only climb on the path. And so far, it's doing pretty good. Keeping a consistent cadence. Trying not to be jerky on my pedal movements. And just like my other range test, I am trying to keep pedaling at a very consistent cadence. Maybe we got to get a cadence monitor. So now I basically just have flat canal path for the next while. And let's check in on our stats. About 4 miles, and the battery is actually reading 87%. So I don't know, this is pedal mode number 3. Oh, pinata party. This is pedal assist mode number 3, which it's giving a pretty dang strong assistance. So definitely getting our money's worth here. So on this bike, something else I feel like I'm noticing is that if I'm pedaling, it's really giving me full power, and I haven't been able to distinguish what the difference is between power mode 1, power mode 2, and power mode 3. Okay, 1 gives me a little less power. Okay, so 1 through 5 basically give me different levels of power, but I don't feel like it's necessarily proportional to how much torque I'm giving the pedals, if that makes sense. It's like, as long as I'm turning the pedals and there's some resistance against the gears, it's giving me basically full power and getting me to 20 miles an hour, like fairly quick. What it feels like on this Tenways bike is that it's basically, if I'm pedaling and I have some sort of resistance, like on the chain, so I'm giving it some sort of power, it seems like it doesn't have a torque sensor per se, but it has more of a cadence sensor. And then based on the power output of each mode, it kind of holds you at your top speed in the like peak of how much power it'll give you in each mode. If that does that make sense? I don't feel like the bike is necessarily giving me more or less power depending on how hard I pedal. It is giving me more or less power depending on which mode I'm in. And that's not something about Tenways, that's really just, I think, the Bafeng mid-drive motor. And this is my first experience with it, so perhaps there is the ability to tune it. I'm also very picky, and I want to figure out how to get the most out of my bike. So I'm at 8.5 miles with 72% left. Check in a little later. So here on the screen you can see this bar. When I stop pedaling, it goes to nothing, and when I start pedaling even lightly, it goes all the way up. So if I go to, so here's my theory, is that in mode 1, if we go down to there and I pedal as hard as I can, it's only giving me the first part of that yellow bar. If I go to 2, it's going to give me in between. Sorry for shaking. It's going to give me in between. If I go to 3, it's giving me everything. 4 and 5 are the same, except more power. Does that make sense? So I think there's really only 3 modes on this bike, even though there's 5. There's 1, which gives you a little bit of power, 2 gives you a little more, and 3, which gives you all the power. Okay, so I am at 55% on the battery here, and I think so far I've learned a lot about this bike, the different modes it has, and how the mid-drive motor operates. I just looked online and it said it has a cadence sensor, a torque sensor, and I know it has a speed sensor on the back wheel, but I'm not being very efficient in mode 3. And I want to figure out the difference between mode 3, 4, and 5 because I'm not getting a difference in motor output there. And I think I should be. Perhaps at slower speeds, but not at higher end. So, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so my bike computer says 13.6 miles, 200 feet climbed, and I'm at 55% 4% battery on the AGO-X. I think I've learned that mode 3 is really full power mode. It's holding me up at 20 miles an hour consistently, very easily. And as I drop down to 2 and 1, it takes it down to like 17 and then 15 miles an hour. So got some learnings there. I'm gonna head back. We'll see what we end at, and I'll wrap up my final thoughts back at the studio. Okay, so I've hit 20%. I've noticed a significant decrease in the amount of available power in each mode. Just to recap, right now I'm at 22 miles, 17% on the battery in mode 3. I've actually dropped it down to mode 2 to make sure I make it up the hill, and then we can make it back to the car. I'm at 11%. Battery, or like power output, has significantly decreased, especially going up hills, even in mode 5. Now I'm out spinning myself, but very interesting. I have some interesting thoughts on this bike. So one of the things that is really notable about the AGO-X is this big, sturdy rear rack. It's bolted to the frame. It's got a 25 kilogram capacity. And I was really surprised to find out that Tenways had no specific solution for mounting a bag onto this rack. This is a pannier bag from Tenways that I got for the Seago 600 Pro. And it has these clips on the back, which are pretty standard. And those are like standard touring clips. And they're too small. They will not fit on this rack. So, since I have quite a few storage solutions, I then went and looked at my Ortlieb gravel panniers. These are fantastic, but I looked on the back, and again, those are ready for, I think, 8mm rails. This the like standard size rail, and even at that, you can see there's like a, what's it called, like some sort of a filler clip in there that even makes this even smaller. So I found on Ortlieb's website, they have these clips. And these clips are much bigger. Let's see if I can get them in focus. These clips are much bigger. They're 20 millimeters. They're huge. And 20 millimeters just happens to be the size of this rack. So if you are looking for a storage solution for your AGO-X, go get these 20 millimeter Ortlieb clips. It was incredibly hard, even on all the forums, for me to find any information on how to get anything mounted to this rack. It's one of the things I was the most surprised about. And these clips come on and off in the center here. So I can open it, you open this clip, and you slide this into the center, and you can take off the pannier brackets that shipped with your bag, your Ortlieb bag, and then you put these ones on. Put that over, slide it over, and secure that in there. And then you're able to pull this to open those tabs, and you finally have, not get it on the bars, you finally have a locking solution for the Tenways rack. This specialized, what is it called? Specialized Fallen Robin tote. I really forget what it's called. It's got these huge hooks on the back that secure to many different sizes. Again, This is a pretty good solution. As long as you have the back hook on, it really shouldn't go anywhere, especially if you have stuff in here. So let's just recap here. Tenways bag that they sell on their website, doesn't work. Ortlieb bag, straight from the factory, doesn't work. Ortlieb bag with the 20 millimeter adapters on their bag works. Which Ortlieb's like the golden standard of bike bags. So I don't think they're bad to do like at all. This is the other set of clamps that I didn't put on. But you can see here that it's very big. It opens. You're able to slide the rail in and close it. And that's actually the shape of this rail. So good on Ortlieb for supplying these clips. However, it's a bummer that there's not much information on how to carry stuff on the bike and that these don't work on Tenways bags. And one more bag I want to show you. The one that's mounted up back here. This is, I guess I should take it off and I can show you. This is a bag from Old Man Mountain, and their solution for their racks is this bag, which doesn't have any hard mounting points, which if you're riding off-road and it's really rough, like you're bouncing around a lot, this sort of mounting system won't like rattle around. So the way that you hook it on is you put the rail under here and you slide the Velcro in and around the rail. So then it secures like that. And then this strap goes through the rack on the bottom to secure it and clips on the front. So this solution is what I used today, and it worked fabulous. These bags are waterproof. They're basically all the same spec as the Ortlieb, as the Ortlieb gravel packs, but they're very versatile. And I really learned that today when needing a storage solution for my ride. So that's pretty cool. I love that. Love these Old Man Mountain gravel panniers. All right, so that was my first look at the Tenways AGO-X. I have to be honest, I was pretty surprised at the range test. It seems like the mid-drive motor on this bike didn't really have a torque sensor. I mean, it seemed like it did in mode 1 and mode 2, but not in mode 3, 4, or 5. I did the test in mode 3, the range test, because I felt like if the motor had 5 different modes, doing the test in mode 3 would be a good average. However, I ended up getting less range on the AGO-X than I did on the Seago 600 Pro, which is single speed and has a motor in the hub. I don't know off the top of my head what the battery specs are, what difference they are, but I was pretty surprised. I know I was going a lot faster on the AGO-X. I was holding like 20 miles an hour most of the time. So I'm sure if I matched the speed of the Seago 600 Pro, which was about 15 miles an hour, I'm sure they at least would have matched. But coming from mid-drive motors from Bros, which are the motors that are in specialized e-bikes, I was a little taken back by the performance, or rather the specific thing I was taken back by on the mid-drive motor, the Baofeng M410, is the fact that you can't tune it. It's powerful. It's nice to have the mid-drive motor and the drivetrain to sort of, stay at a comfortable cadence and a better efficiency for the motor by using the gears, but that didn't translate into more range. And I think that's because the motor was basically just getting me up to full speed and then holding me there, rather than responding proportionally to the amount of torque that I put in, even on the highest pedal assist settings. On my Specialized Turbo Taro, there is and I'll do a deeper comparison, I think, between the two, But on the Turbo Taro, you have the ability to tune the motor. And the way that I like to set it up is having full power available to me, but not getting it unless I work hard for it. It's kind of like hard to explain, but you're able to use or get 100% power, but you have to put in like 2 or 3 times the amount of power that you normally would to get that. And with the Tenways AGO-X motor, which is the Baofeng M410, you can't really tune it. And that was kind of a bummer for me. Will it get you places fast? Yes. Will it do that without having you break a sweat? Yes. Is it nice to have the motor in the cranks as opposed to the wheel? In my opinion, yes. I should also probably note that there is on the display, there's a motor output display, meaning you can see how much effort the motor is giving you when you're pedaling. And that's how I really found out that in mode 1 and 2, it's sort of at like 25% and 50%. And in mode 3, the motor support basically goes up to 100%. So I would love to see 2 things on this display. One is a cadence sensor that sort of shows you where your optimal cadence range is. The Turbo Taro displays that, and I think that really helps for generating efficiency. And I would also like to see not just the motor output, but like the level of support, the level of watts that the motor is giving me. I think that would be good too. There are other screens on the AGO-X that you can see your estimated range and whatnot, but nothing about like the current power consumption. So I think that would be really helpful. So I think I really need to give it a few more months before I really make up my mind on the AGO-X. I think something that will help me is comparing my baseline, which is the Specialized Turbo Taro 5.0, with the AGO-X. And so keep an eye out for a side-by-side comparison of the Turbo Taro and the Tenways AGO-X. They're not completely comparable. The Turbo Taro 5.0 is, I believe, like $399 right now, so $4,000, and the AGO-X is $2,500. However, you can get the Turbo Taro 3.0 for about the same cost as the AGO-X. So I will keep using this bike. I'm not going to give up on it yet. I figured out the storage solutions. I might just put a milk crate on the back rack. That's always a good way to carry stuff on a bike. And we will see how I like this bike over time. If you like this video, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you sticking around, enjoying these different reviews. I've been the most consistent I've been on YouTube ever for the last month and a half, posting every week. So I have been feeling very good about that. But that will do it for the AGO-X. If you're new around here, my name's Trent, and the one thing I like to say is never stop chasing your curiosity. I've always done that, and it's always done me well. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.